The trauma bay at Stanford Hospital never truly slept. Even after 12 years as a physician, Dr. Simone Carter still found herself awed by the controlled chaos of emergency medicine. Monitors beeped steadily from behind curtains. Nurses moved swiftly between patients, their expressions calm despite the urgency surrounding them. Residents hurried down hallways carrying charts and lab results, while overhead announcements echoed through the hospital. Tonight had been especially brutal. 3 surgeries, 2 emergency consults, 1 heartbreaking conversation with a family whose loved one hadn't survived. Simone glanced at the clock mounted above the nurse's station. 7:42 p.m. She had been on her feet for nearly 14 hours. Dr. Carter? She turned toward one of the younger residents. "The Wilson family wanted me to thank you," he said. "Their daughter is stable." Relief softened Simone's exhausted expression. "She did the hard part," Simone replied. "She fought." The resident smiled. "Still, they wanted you to know they appreciate everything you did." Simone nodded. "Thank you." After he walked away, she leaned against the counter for a brief moment. She loved medicine, loved being able to save lives. But some days, the emotional weight of carrying everyone else's emergencies became overwhelming. Her phone vibrated inside the pocket of her white coat. Jordan. Despite her exhaustion, Simone smiled. Her younger brother rarely called during her shifts unless something important had happened. She immediately answered. "Hey, troublemaker. Everything okay?" Silence. Then breathing. Fast. Uneven. Fear prickled along her skin. "Jordan?" Something crashed loudly in the background. Voices shouted. Jordan's breathing became ragged. "Simone?" Her heart stopped. "Jordan, where are you?" "If anything happens." The line disconnected. The bustling emergency department around her suddenly faded into distant background noise. "Jordan?" Nothing. Her hands shook as she called back immediately. "Voicemail." Again. "Voicemail." "No. No. No," she whispered. Her phone vibrated again. Unknown number. Every instinct screamed at her not to answer. She answered anyway. A video file appeared. Heart pounding, she pressed play. Jordan sat tied to a metal chair. Bruises darkened one side of his face. His lip was split. Fear haunted his eyes. "Simone?" A man stepped into frame. He appeared to be in his late 50s. Sophisticated. Controlled. Dangerous. Silver threaded through his dark hair. His tailored charcoal suit probably cost more than most people made in a month. "Dr. Carter." His voice remained smooth, almost polite. "Your brother has accumulated substantial debt." Ice flooded Simone's veins. "What do you want?" The man folded his hands. "We understand your parents left behind considerable life insurance benefits." The world tilted. The insurance fund. Money she had never touched. Money their parents had left for emergencies. "You have 72 hours. The screen went black. Simone stood frozen in the middle of Stanford Hospital's emergency department. Around her, life continued normally. Doctors rushed toward trauma bays. Patients waited for treatment. Families hoped for miracles. Meanwhile, her entire world had just shattered. The first person she wanted to call was Lee Min-ho, which was exactly why she didn't. Because if something happened to him because of this, she wouldn't survive it. 45 minutes later, Simone sat alone inside her car in Stanford Hospital's parking garage. Rain tapped softly against the windshield. Insurance documents illuminated her tablet screen. She'd never accessed the trust. Never wanted to. The money represented the worst day of her life. The day she'd become an orphan. The day Jordan lost everything. 12 years earlier, Simone had stood beside 2 caskets. Jordan had been 12 years old. She had been 24. Old enough to understand loss. Young enough to still desperately need her own parents. Instead, she'd become responsible for someone else's healing. She remembered Jordan sobbing into her shoulder after the funeral. "What's going to happen to us?" She'd held him tighter despite feeling terrified herself. "We're going to be okay." It had been a promise she'd repeated countless times over the years. Even when she wasn't sure, she believed it herself. medical school, residency, long nights working double shifts, helping Jordan with homework, attending parent-teacher conferences, teaching him how to drive. Every decision she'd made had revolved around one thing: making sure Jordan never felt alone. Her phone rang. Lee Min-ho. She stared at his name. Min-ho had been her constant for 14 years. Best friend. Safe place. Home. She let the call ring unanswered. Then again. Eventually, voicemail appeared. "Hey," Min-ho's familiar voice said. "You've ignored 3 calls, which means you're either sleeping, operating, or avoiding me. Call me back, Simone." A weak smile touched her lips. Even now, he knew her too well. She placed the phone face down. This was her responsibility. She would handle it. Just like she always had. What Simone didn't realize was that Lee Min-ho had already sensed something was terribly wrong. Lee Min-ho stood inside his executive office, overlooking San Francisco Bay. The city stretched beneath floor-to-ceiling windows. Most people saw LMH Ventures' billionaire CEO. Disciplined, successful, untouchable. Very few knew the man beneath the tailored suits and business headlines. The soldier who had spent 8 years in special operations. The man who still instinctively identified exits upon entering every room. The friend who had quietly loved the same woman for 14 years. His phone rested on the desk. 4 unanswered calls. All to Simone. A frown settled across his features. Simone never ignored him. Not without reason. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. "Mr. Lee?" His assistant stepped inside. "Dr. Carter canceled tonight's fundraiser." Min-ho looked up immediately. "Canceled?" She cited a family emergency. Unease settled heavily in his chest. Simone worked through exhaustion, through illness, through grief. She didn't cancel commitments. Not unless something was seriously wrong. "Cancel my remaining meetings. You have the board dinner tonight. Reschedule it." "Yes, sir." 20 minutes later, Min-ho drove toward Palo Alto. Rain streaked across the windshield. His thoughts drifted backward. 14 years earlier. Stanford University. Freshman orientation. "You aren't eating those fries," Simone had observed. Min-ho looked down. "Actually, I am." She reached across the table. "Sharing is important. You just stole half my lunch." "You offered." "I absolutely did not." Simone had laughed. Warm, unrestrained. "You should learn generosity." Somewhere between coffee runs and late-night study sessions, friendship had become something deeper. He'd fallen in love with her quietly, carefully, because Simone already carried enough responsibilities. Because friendship mattered more than risking everything. Because losing her completely had never been an option. By the time Min-ho pulled into Simone's driveway, the rain had intensified. Lights glowed inside her Palo Alto townhouse. Using the emergency key she'd given him years ago, he entered. Simone stood in the kitchen. Insurance paperwork covered every available surface. She looked exhausted, terrified. "You shouldn't be here." Min-ho studied her carefully. "What happened?" "I'm handling it." "Simone?" "No." "Talk to me." Tears immediately filled her eyes. "Jordan's been kidnapped." The words stole the air from the room. "When?" "This afternoon." "Have you contacted police?" "No." "Why?" "They threatened to kill him." Min-ho remained calm. "What do they want?" Simone hesitated. "Money." "How much?" "I don't know. We'll figure it out." Her head snapped upward. "No." "We?" "You're not getting involved. You don't get to decide that." Min-ho. "No." He stepped closer. "You don't have to do this alone." Emotion flickered across her expression. "You don't understand." "Then help me understand." She looked away. "I lost my parents." Her voice cracked. "I spent years making sure Jordan survived losing them too." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "If something happened to you because of this." She couldn't finish. Min-ho's heart tightened painfully. Because after 14 years, he finally understood. This wasn't just fear. It was love wrapped in terror. "I'm not going anywhere," he said softly. Simone laughed bitterly through tears. "You always say that." "Because it's true." Rain tapped steadily against the windows. "I just want my brother home," she whispered. Min-ho gently squeezed her hand. "You will?" She closed her eyes. "Please don't get involved." Min-ho didn't answer. Because there was no version of reality where he stood aside while Simone suffered alone. He would bring Jordan home, no matter what it cost. Even if Simone never knew how deeply he loved her. The following morning, Dr. Simone Carter performed surgery with the same precision she always had. Operating room 3 remained brightly illuminated as nurses moved efficiently around the trauma table. Clamp. The instrument immediately appeared in her hand. Suction. BP stabilizing, anesthesia reported. Everyone around her saw the same Dr. Carter they always had. Competent, focused, unshakable. No one noticed her hands tremble briefly before she corrected herself. No one noticed the extra breath she took before making the next incision. Years of medical training had taught Simone how to compartmentalize. Patients needed her. Lives depended on her. Personal crises could wait, even when her little brother had been kidnapped. 40 minutes later, surgery concluded successfully. The trauma team dispersed. Simone stepped into an empty supply closet. The moment the door closed, she pressed both hands against metal shelving. Her breathing became uneven. "Jordan, please be okay." Her phone vibrated. Unknown number. She answered immediately. "Please." Dr. Carter. Chairman Park's smooth voice filled the silence. "You have 48 hours remaining. I want proof he's alive." A pause followed. Then Jordan's voice emerged weakly. "Simone, don't do it." The line crackled. "I'm sorry. I messed up. I never meant." The phone shifted. "Family should settle its obligations," Park said. The call disconnected. Family. The word pierced deeply. For 12 years, Simone had been everything Jordan needed. Sister, guardian, provider, protector. After their parents died, she'd promised herself Jordan would never feel abandoned again. She had sacrificed relationships, sleep, pieces of herself. Apparently, it still hadn't been enough. Her phone rang again. Min-ho. She almost ignored it. "What?" she answered. "Have you eaten today?" The simple question nearly shattered her composure. "No. I'm downstairs." "What?" "I'm bringing lunch. You need to stop doing this." "No. Min-ho. You don't have to carry this alone." Emotion lodged painfully inside her chest. No one had ever offered to share her burdens before. "Please," she whispered. "Please what?" "Please don't make me depend on you." Silence. Then softly, "Too late." Tears burned behind her eyes. She ended the call before he heard them. Across the bay, Min-ho stood inside LMH Ventures' conference room. Marcus projected Jordan's financial history onto the screen. Gambling debts started 18 months ago. Min-ho frowned. What triggered escalation? Layoff, depression, poor coping mechanisms. The screen changed. Oakland poker rooms. Loan sharks. Organized crime. Jordan owed over $400,000. Marcus sighed. He used Simone's financial reputation to buy time. Min-ho stared at the numbers. Jordan wasn't simply a victim. He'd made devastating choices. Still, Simone loved him, which meant Min-ho would protect him too. "We have a location?" he asked. Marcus nodded. "Warehouse district near the Port of Oakland." Min-ho stood. "We move tonight." Marcus studied him carefully. "You've loved her a long time." Memories surfaced effortlessly. Simone asleep over anatomy textbooks. Simone crying after Jordan graduated college. Simone sitting beside him after his father's funeral. Since college. Marcus smiled. "Then let's bring her brother home." Because for Lee Min-ho, loving Simone Carter had never been a choice. It had simply become part of who he was. Simone arrived home shortly after sunset. The drive from Stanford Hospital to Palo Alto had passed in a blur of anxiety and exhaustion. Every traffic light felt too long. Every minute that passed was another minute Jordan remained in danger. As she pulled into the driveway, she immediately spotted Min-ho sitting on the front porch. Even from a distance, his posture was unmistakable. Calm, steady, waiting. Relief surged through her before frustration quickly followed. She was too tired to examine why both emotions existed at the same time. "What are you doing here?" Simone asked as she climbed the front steps. "We need to talk." Her stomach tightened. "No." Minho stood. "Jordan owes over $400,000. The world seemed to tilt. "What?" He wasn't randomly targeted. No. He became involved with underground gambling operations in Oakland. No. "Simone? Stop." She stepped backward. "Stop talking." Minho's expression remained composed, but she recognized the concern hidden beneath his calm exterior. "I verified everything." "You investigated my brother?" "I investigated the people holding him. You had no right. He used your name." The words landed like physical blows. "No." He told them his sister had access to substantial financial resources. "Stop." He promised them repayment. I said stop. Tears immediately filled her eyes. "You don't know him." Minho's voice softened. "I know grief changes people. You don't understand." "Then help me understand." Silence stretched between them. Finally, Simone looked away. "He was 12 years old." Her voice cracked. "When our parents died." Memories surfaced instantly. Jordan crying himself to sleep. Jordan refusing to unpack his belongings after they moved into her tiny apartment. Jordan asking repeatedly if their parents would come home. "I promised myself I would take care of him." "You did." "I apparently failed." Minho stepped closer. "You became a guardian at 24. I should have done more." "You were grieving too." Simone laughed bitterly. "I didn't have time to grieve." She remembered studying medical textbooks at Jordan's basketball practices, working overnight shifts during residency while making sure Jordan had lunch money, missing holidays, missing birthdays, always trying to hold everything together. "I was supposed to protect him." "You were never supposed to raise a child alone." The quiet truth of his statement shattered something inside her. Tears spilled freely. "You don't understand." "Then tell me. If something happens to you because of Jordan." Her voice broke completely. "I couldn't survive that." The admission hung heavily between them. Minho's chest tightened painfully. Because for 14 years, he had hoped. "I already buried my parents," Simone whispered. "I can't bury you too." Neither moved. Finally, Minho spoke. "I'm not going anywhere." "You can't promise that." "No." His voice softened. "But I can promise I'll never stop showing up for you." Simone stared at him, then looked away. "Please don't get involved." Minho remained silent, because he had already made his decision. He was bringing Jordan home. Even if Simone hated him for it. Simone awoke just after midnight. A sound downstairs immediately shattered the fragile sleep she'd managed to find. Every muscle tensed. Years working emergency medicine had heightened her instincts. Quietly, she climbed out of bed. Her fingers wrapped around the baseball bat she kept beside her bedroom door. Moving cautiously down the hallway, she followed the muffled voices coming from the kitchen. She stopped abruptly in the doorway. Marcus stood beside the kitchen island studying blueprints. Minho looked up. "You weren't supposed to be awake." Simone lowered the bat slightly. "What is going on?" Marcus blinked. "You didn't tell her?" Minho sighed heavily. "Marcus." "What?" Simone folded her arms. "What aren't you telling me?" Marcus looked confused. "You didn't know he served in special operations?" Everything around Simone seemed to stop. "What?" Minho pinched the bridge of his nose. "It was a long time ago." "You were military?" "Yes." "You never told me." His expression became guarded. "It wasn't a part of my life I wanted to revisit." "How long?" 8 years. Simone stared at him. Suddenly, countless memories clicked into place. The way Minho always sat facing entrances. How he'd instinctively positioned himself between her and danger. His calmness during emergencies. The discipline woven into every aspect of his life. "You were special operations?" "Yes." "What happened?" Pain flickered briefly across his features. "I lost people." The simple statement carried years of grief. "I came home." "And built LMH Ventures?" It gave me something else to focus on. Something inside Simone ached, even after 14 years. There were still pieces of him she'd never known. You're planning something. Silence. Lee Min-ho. I'm bringing Jordan home. Fear surged instantly. No. It's already underway. You could die. We've planned carefully. No. Simone crossed the kitchen quickly, her hand wrapped around his forearm. Please. The desperation in her voice shattered him. I already lost my parents. Tears streamed down her face. I cannot lose you, too. The room became impossibly quiet. Minho gently held her trembling hands. You won't. You don't know that. No. His voice lowered. But I know I couldn't live with myself if I abandoned you. Fresh tears slipped down Simone's cheeks. I hate you. A small smile touched Minho's lips. No, you don't. No? Her voice broke. I really don't. For a brief moment, neither moved. Marcus quietly gathered his things. I'll wait outside. The kitchen door closed behind him, leaving Simone and Minho alone. You should have told me, she whispered. About special operations. Minho looked down. I didn't want that version of me to define who I became. It doesn't. He met Herr Gaze. It explains why you never walk away from people you love. Emotion tightened his throat. Because after all these years, Simone still saw the best parts of him, even when he struggled to see them himself. Fog rolled through the port of Oakland after midnight. Towering shipping containers cast long shadows beneath scattered security lights. The distant sound of cargo ships echoed across the water. Marcus adjusted his communications earpiece. Thermal imaging confirms 6 heat signatures inside. Minho studied the warehouse. Jordan? Northeast corner. Marcus glanced toward him. You ready? Minho looked toward the darkened structure. Simone's tearful expression replayed in his mind. I can't lose you too. Let's bring him home. The team moved silently. Years of special operations training resurfaced effortlessly. Controlled breathing. Calculated movements. Absolute focus. Inside the warehouse, Jordan Carter sat tied to a metal chair. Bruises covered his face. Every breath hurt. Shame settled heavily in his chest. This was his fault. Simone had spent 12 years sacrificing everything for him. Medical school, residency, relationships, her own happiness. And this was how he repaid her. He remembered being 12 years old, standing beside 2 caskets, terrified. Simone had wrapped her arms around him despite shaking herself. We're going to be okay. She'd kept that promise. He hadn't. Footsteps approached. Chairman Park entered calmly. You appear troubled. Jordan laughed bitterly. My sister isn't paying you. Park adjusted his suit jacket. We shall see. You should let me go. Park regarded him thoughtfully. Your sister loves you very much. Jordan lowered his head. I know. And yet, here we are. Before Jordan could respond, one of Park's men rushed forward. We have movement outside. Park frowned. Police? We aren't certain. Prepare transportation. Meanwhile, Minho signaled toward Marcus. 2 guards. Marcus nodded. Within seconds, both threats were neutralized. Silent. Efficient. Professional. Minho entered through a side corridor, then stopped. Jordan sat only 20 feet away, alive. Relief crashed through him. Jordan looked up. Simone? Minho stepped into view. No. Recognition immediately crossed Jordan's bruised face. Minho? He quickly cut through the restraints. You okay? Jordan laughed weakly. Not really. You picked the wrong family to threaten. Emotion overwhelmed Jordan. You came. Minho helped him stand. Simone would have burned California down for you. Jordan's eyes filled with tears. I don't deserve her. No. Jordan blinked. But she loves you anyway. Before either man could continue, Chairman Park appeared. You should have remained uninvolved. Minho stepped forward. You should have stayed away from Simone Carter. Park studied him. Your affection clouds your judgment. No. Minho's voice remained calm. It clarifies my priorities. Sirens suddenly echoed throughout the warehouse. Blue and red lights flashed outside. Understanding crossed Park's face. You planned this. You underestimated how many people care about Simone. Law enforcement flooded the building moments later. The operation ended quickly. Park surrendered without resistance. Marcus approached. Everyone accounted for. Minho nodded. Jordan sat heavily against a shipping container. She hates me now, doesn't she? Minho looked toward the flashing emergency lights. No. Then what? She's heartbroken. Jordan closed his eyes. I never wanted to hurt her. I know. Jordan swallowed hard. I just didn't know how to ask for help. Minho thought about Simone. The woman who carried everyone else's burdens. The woman terrified of leaning on others. Neither does she. Jordan looked surprised. She seemed so strong. A soft smile appeared on Minho's face. She is. He looked toward San Francisco's distant skyline. But even strong people need someone willing to stand beside them. Jordan studied him carefully. You love her. Minho remained silent. Jordan laughed weakly. About time. Nearly 2 hours later, Simone sat on her living room couch staring at her silent phone. Every worst-case scenario had played through her mind repeatedly. When her phone finally rang, her hands trembled. Minho. She answered immediately. Hello? He's safe. The breath she'd been holding escaped in a sob. Oh my God. Jordan's okay. Tears streamed down her face. And you? Silence. Then gently. I'm okay too. Relief crashed over her so powerfully that she nearly collapsed. For the first time in days, she could breathe. Come home, she whispered. Minho closed his eyes briefly. I'm on my way. 2 days later, Simone stood outside Jordan's hospital room. Her hand rested against the door handle. She had faced trauma surgeries lasting 12 hours, delivered devastating news to grieving families, made life or death decisions under unimaginable pressure. Yet stepping into this room felt infinitely harder. Taking a steadying breath, she pushed the door open. Jordan sat propped against the hospital bed, staring out the window overlooking Palo Alto. The bruising along his face had already begun fading. The guilt in his expression had not. When he noticed her, uncertainty immediately crossed his features. Hey. Simone nodded slightly. Hey. Silence settled heavily between them. Neither seemed to know where to begin. Finally, Jordan lowered his gaze. I'm sorry. The words hung in the air. Row. Fragile. Simone remained quiet. I messed up, Jordan whispered. You used my name. Jordan nodded immediately. I know. You knew they'd come after me. Tears filled his eyes. I wasn't thinking. Simone laughed bitterly. That's exactly the problem. Jordan looked down at his hands. I thought I could fix it before you found out. How? I don't know. Jordan. His voice cracked. I was drowning. Fresh tears slipped down Simone's cheeks. You should have come to me. I couldn't. Why? Jordan looked up. Because you've sacrificed everything for me. Emotion tightened Simone's throat. You raised me. You worked impossible hours. You gave up your 20s. I couldn't stand disappointing you. Simone closed her eyes. You think I expected perfection? No. What I expected was honesty. Jordan lowered his head. I know. Silence stretched between them. Then Jordan whispered something Simone never expected. I blamed myself. For what? The accident. Everything inside Simone stopped. What? Jordan's voice trembled. I couldn't save Mom and Dad. Jordan, I should have done something. You were 12. I should have. You were 12. Her voice broke. You were a child. Jordan finally looked at her. Tears streamed freely down his face. I still hear it sometimes. The crash. I still think if I'd done something differently. Simone crossed the room immediately. She sat beside him, wrapped her arms around him. You didn't cause it. Jordan sobbed openly. I miss them. For years, Simone had hidden her own grief because Jordan needed her to be strong. Now, tears filled her own eyes. I miss them too. They held each other tightly. Not doctor and patient. Not parent and child. Simply brother and sister. Finally grieving together. I don't know how to fix this, Jordan admitted quietly. Simone wiped away tears. You start by getting help. I started therapy. I'm proud of you. Jordan looked surprised. You are? Always. He laughed weakly through tears. Even when I'm an idiot? Especially then. Jordan hesitated. Minho really loves you. Simone froze. What? He rescued me. Jordan smiled softly. The entire time he talked about getting me home to you. Emotions swelled inside her chest. I know. Jordan studied her carefully. You love him too. Simone looked away. Yeah. Jordan squeezed her hand. Then stop wasting time. Minho gave Simone space. 3 days passed. Then 4. Then 5. He buried himself in work. Board meetings. Investment reviews. International conference calls. Yet thoughts of Simone lingered constantly. He wondered if rescuing Jordan had crossed a line. If revealing his special operations history had changed how she saw him. If he'd finally ruined the friendship he'd spent 14 years protecting. Mr. Lee? His assistant appeared. Dr. Carter is here. His heart immediately stumbled. Send her in. Minutes later, Simone stepped into his office. The San Francisco skyline stretched behind him. Neither moved initially. You've been avoiding me, Simone said. Minho blinked. You asked for space. I changed my mind. A small smile appeared. Okay. Simone crossed her arms. You lied. About special operations? Yes. I omitted details. You could have died. Silence. Do you always do that? Do what? Risk yourself for people you care about? Minho answered immediately. Yes. Simone shook her head. Idiot. Probably. Silence settled comfortably between them. Then Simone whispered. Thank you. You don't have to thank me. I know. She looked toward the city below. I was angry. You had every right. I wasn't angry because you got involved. Minho studied her carefully. I was angry because I was terrified. His chest tightened. Of what? Simone finally looked at him. Losing you. The words settled softly between them. Minho's breath caught. You're stuck with me, Simone. For the first time in days, she smiled. Good. She hesitated. Would you go somewhere with me? Anywhere. Twin Peaks overlooked the sparkling San Francisco skyline. The city lights stretched endlessly beneath the night sky. A cool breeze swept across the overlook. Minho and Simone stood side by side in comfortable silence. You brought me here before, Simone said. Senior year. You'd gotten accepted into business school. You'd gotten accepted into medical school. Simone smiled softly. I cried. You ugly cried. I absolutely did not. You definitely did. You brought milkshakes. You refused flowers. They die. You've always been practical. Silence returned. Then Simone spoke quietly. You once asked why I never let people help me. Minho listened carefully. After my parents died, I convinced myself needing people was dangerous. She stared at the city below. Jordan was terrified everyone he loved would disappear. Her voice softened. I promised him I'd stay. You did. But somewhere along the way, tears filled her eyes. I stopped believing I deserved anyone staying for me. Minho reached for her hand. You don't have to earn love. Simone looked down at their intertwined fingers. I know that logically. But emotionally? It's terrifying. Silence. Then she whispered. You know what scared me most? What? Losing you. Minho's heart pounded. If something had happened to you because of Jordan, fresh tears appeared. I never would have forgiven myself. Simone. She finally looked at him. I've loved you for years. The words escaped softly. I think I've loved you so long that I don't remember when it started. Emotion overwhelmed him. But I didn't tell you because I was afraid. Minho blinked. Afraid? You've been my best friend since we were 22. Tears slipped down her cheeks. What if telling you ruined that? Minho laughed softly. You idiot. Simone blinked. What? I've loved you for 14 years. Her eyes widened. What? You stole my fries during freshman orientation. Simone started. Seriously? You've been stealing my food ever since. She laughed, then cried, then laughed again. I love you, Lee Min-ho. The words settled gently between them. Honest. Certain. Long overdue. Min-ho brushed tears from her cheek. Can I kiss you? Simone smiled through tears. You've waited 14 years. She leaned closer. You've earned it. The kiss was soft, tender, unhurried. It wasn't desperation. It wasn't passion born from fear. It was recognition. Home. When they finally separated, Min-ho rested his forehead against hers. I should have told you sooner. Simone laughed softly. I would have panicked. You definitely would have panicked. I absolutely would have panicked. Together, they overlooked the city that had witnessed 14 years of friendship. And finally, love. 6 months later, the Bay Area summer evening painted the sky in brilliant shades of gold and lavender. Simone stood on the balcony of her Palo Alto townhouse. For the first time in years, life felt peaceful. You okay? Min-ho stepped outside carrying 2 mugs of tea. Simone smiled. I think so. He raised an eyebrow. You think so? Old habits. She laughed softly. Learning to exist without constantly preparing for disaster had become its own challenge. You've gotten better, Min-ho said. I have. You asked me for help last week. I needed groceries. Progress. Laughter drifted from inside. Jordan stepped onto the balcony. Therapy had changed him. The guilt remained. But it no longer controlled him. Family meeting? Jordan asked. Something like that. Jordan turned toward Min-ho. I never properly thanked you. You don't owe me anything. I do. Emotion filled Jordan's expression. You saved my life. Min-ho nodded. Don't waste the second chance. I won't. Jordan turned toward Simone. I'm sorry. Months later, the apology still carried weight. Simone hugged him tightly. I know. You deserved better. She pulled back enough to look at him. You don't have to earn being loved. Jordan smiled through tears. Neither do you. After Jordan left, Min-ho slipped an arm around Simone. You still trying to handle everything yourself? She leaned against him. Working on it. Good. Because I plan on being around for a very long time. Simone looked up at him. You know. What? I spent years trying not to lose my best friend. Min-ho kissed her forehead. You didn't. She smiled softly. I got something even better. He grinned. A billionaire boyfriend? She laughed. No. The man who never stopped choosing me. Min-ho squeezed her hand. I'll keep choosing you. Even when I'm difficult? Especially then. Tears filled Simone's eyes. You know what I realized? What? Love isn't weakness. Min-ho listened quietly. Trust isn't surrender. And family isn't only defined by blood. Fresh emotions swelled inside her chest. Sometimes family is the person who stays. The person who fights beside you. The person who chooses you over and over again. Min-ho smiled softly. And sometimes, Simone rested her head against his shoulder. Love means finally allowing yourself to be chosen too. As the Bay Area sunset faded into twilight, Simone realized something she had spent years denying. Strength had never meant carrying everything alone. Sometimes, the bravest thing you could do was let someone love you.